What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video as we are continuing this 2024 NBA offseason right in the middle of the NBA draft because the first round just concluded. I somewhat forgot. I definitely did not forget that the second round is tomorrow, but it's just such a weird choice to make and making everybody wait for the second round tomorrow, but I slightly understand it. But I'm here with my 2024 free agency predictions. I was going to wait around and do these on Sunday, the actual start of free agency, but several names are starting to be re-signed, and the list is shrinking and shrinking of significant free agents. So I was like, let's just go ahead and get it done. So I will say this now. These are more so suggestions than more so predictions because there's a second apron. I still don't even really know what that means, but it makes it difficult for some teams that are spending a lot of money to trade or even more or less for this video sign their free agents. B, it's very boring, but I could see a lot of these names just re-signing. Or C, what makes it a lot more interesting is signing trades, because signing trades happen and they're more so shocking and surprising. You don't really... We see them happen a lot, but like you can't really predict a sign and trade happening. So I will say these are more so suggestions over predictions. But as of right now, I think I have wrote down 14, in my opinion, of the top free agents, some of which have not accepted or declined their player option. So instead of waiting around for that, I will say what their predicament is during that time period. But as of right now, the names that are more than likely re-signed or announced that they're re-signing are Nicholas Claxton, Malik Monk, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam, with Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley being restricted free agents, and very rarely do we ever see a restricted free agent change teams. So I just am fully expecting all those names that I just listed to stay with the team that they're on. So, starting with the top, and when I say starting at the top name, you know, normally say the best for last, but it's just such a boring and predictable situation that's why we're starting off with LeBron James. For the longest time, I thought he was going to leave because he's on the Lakers, back-to-back years eliminated by the same team, only winning one game in between those series against the Denver Nuggets. I thought a lot more teams would be gunning and trying their best to go after him. That isn't really the predicament. I was suggesting and thinking that the Sixers are a perfect spot for him because it would make a big three between him, Maxey, and Embiid. He's back in the Eastern Conference, which I think he has a better chance competing in the Eastern Conference again than he does in the Western Conference. And he's just helping out Joel Embiid a lot more. And the main thing with LeBron being a free agent and all these other teams that were like gunning and wanting to go after him is they have the money to give to him, where these other teams didn't. Philly did. So I thought it was a perfect fit, but I'm just fully anticipating that he stays with the Lakers. Will they make a move to get a third star? I think so. I'm not going to throw out any names, but I will also throw out that they tried this once before. Cough, cough, Russell Westbrook, and it did not work out. And I will just say this now. I don't like the... You can see I freaking got Grizzly stuff on. I don't like the Lakers. So I don't like talking positively about them. And they love to point... They, being the team itself, mainly the fan base, love to point fingers and blame on a whole bunch of players and situations, which leads to my next player to talk about. Again, I have no clue with a lot of the freaking names on this list, and one of those being D'Angelo Russell. I think prior to Tuesday night, I think he would have been best fitted to going back to Brooklyn, a place that he was appreciated, a place where he was playing his best basketball. Granted, that was 5-6 years ago now, and a crap ton has changed. I don't even think they have a player on their team right now that was on that team that he was on, which is, again, a bit nuts. But after trading Mikal Bridges, I don't really see this happening. I don't know. I think he's going to stay with the Lakers, and they try their best to sign and trade or trade him away to get the improvement. So it wouldn't really be a big change. It wouldn't be his decision, essentially. That's what I'm trying to get at. A boring answer, but that's what I see happening. Next, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, I'm just anticipating him staying with the Nuggets, but a lot of rumors are saying that, oh, he might try to get the bag because he has the opportunity to, but they've done right by him. I think they'd be willing to give him the money that he would want, or at least close to it, so I just expect him to stay with the Nuggets. Now we get some change. Now we get some crazy suggestions. Klay Thompson. If you've been online in the NBA world the past month or so, it has not been good tension signs and sides with Klay and the Warriors. He unfollowed them on social media. All the rumors are saying that they're not communicating well on contract negotiations, which, as someone that has been an NBA fan and tortured by the Warriors for years, it's a bit of a hooray. But for a fan of loyalty and sticking together, and the Warriors have their big three of Klay, Draymond, and Steph, it's a bit sad seeing it because he's going to more than likely be the first one to go. I think him going to Orlando would be great because they could just slot him right in and improve their shooting and improve their team a little bit more. A team that I expected to be in the play-in this past season, and they jumped that mark a lot by finishing as the 5th seed. So I really like that fit with him with the Magic, them giving him the money. I think the only issue that I have in my mind is that the last time that we saw Klay Thompson play and the Orlando Magic play, both shooting, like, Franz Wagner couldn't hit a shot. Klay Thompson literally could not hit a shot. As a bit, you hope that does, and it was at the highest level when you needed it too. That's what's also the scary part. So that is something that they have you have a whole season to work on that. And I really don't imagine that happening again, but you would hope that on everything that it does not. So another name that I am hoping leaves and changes teams, and I think is the most intriguing free agent, is DeMar DeRozan. Now, I could see, it's another situation where I hope he does not end up back on the Chicago Bulls. I just want to see them go into a full rebuild. They've got some young talent to build around. DeMar does not fit that timeline. I will say this. I don't think that Vucevic has this crazy-ass contract and is not as bad as a player as Bulls fans present to him, to where he's just untradeable, in my opinion. Because if you notice, in the NBA, players are making more and more money each freaking year. So I feel that DeRozan's connection with the Bulls is going to mainly be linked to Vucevic, because that was one of the main reasons that he ended up on the team. And so it depends on what happens with him. Again, like I said, am very much hoping that he leaves, but he's so intriguing because I don't know what the hell team that he can end up on. I am going to suggest the Houston Rockets. Now, why the hell do I suggest that? They want to compete now and to win now. I think if you were to ask any freaking player, they want the same thing, and I think DeMar would fit that mold. Reuniting with Fred VanVleet, I know they didn't play as long, and more of his timelines with Kyle Lowry, obviously, but I think he could fit into that team very well. This would mainly probably involve a sign and trade with Dillon Brooks. I'm mainly just saying that because Houston has been in the rumors of wanting to win now and improve, and the names that they're targeting, a la Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant, I don't think are going to end up on that team. Where DeRozan is very similar to those players and can help the team out a lot more. I could see it. Again, I could see DeMar on almost every freaking team. But that was just the wild card team that I suggested. He's more than likely going to end with the Lakers. There, I said it. Now we have a trio of interesting free agents. You could call it the good, the bad, the ugly. You could pick which is which. As all three of these players are on the Philadelphia 76ers this season. Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre, and Buddy Hield. I have a wild suggestion, and then I have my actual suggestion / prediction. So, for Tobias Harris, I could see him end up on the Hornets because the power forward position is mainly the position of interest with the Hornets because they moved on from P.J. Washington. A lot of signs are pointing them to move on from Miles Bridges, who I can see. I would say it'd be a pretty insane to pay Miles Bridges is a lot of money if you're the 76ers in this hypothetical sign and trade that I'm trying to present. But I just feel that he could fit into the Hornets role, and the Hornets have been used to signing players that they probably shouldn't have, but it somewhat works, a la Gordon Hayward. Another wild suggestion would be the Golden State Warriors. I could see it. Kelly Oubre and Buddy Hield, I link together because I feel they're very similar players where Oubre is going to provide you more of a defensive side, and Buddy Hield is going to provide you, obviously, the more of an offensive side, a la three-point shooting. So the three teams I could see, Milwaukee Bucks, Dallas Mavericks, Miami Heat, for these two players in that order, I guess I should say. I think the Bucks need one of the two the most, then the Heat, then the Mavs. But my wild suggestion would be a crazy sign and trade with Paul George going to the Sixers and these three going to the Clippers, because Tobias Harris reuniting with the Clippers again. It's very similar to it's almost identical to the D'Angelo Russell situation, where the highest that we saw Tobias Harris play was with the Clippers. But almost nobody on that team is going to be playing with Tobias Harris. I think Zubac was there during that Tobias Harris run with the Clippers. For who? I said for Paul George. I was going to save Paul George for last, but let's just go ahead and get right into it. The main reason, again, like I was trying to say, the thing with the Clippers, the thing with Paul George, is the Clippers I don't see going into a rebuild because they have Kawhi Leonard. They're able to extend and re-sign Kawhi Leonard. They're moving into this new arena where you can't go in with a rebuilding team, a team a la that sucks. You need a competing team, and that's just what the Clippers have been the past couple of seasons. But now, it kind of seems they want to move on from Paul George. Got a Woj tweet. It's just talking about the draft ending. I thought it was a big Woj bomb, and it's not. So, the Sixers, I feel, should be plan B or Paul George should be plan B for the Sixers if they can't get LeBron, which again, like I said, I fully don't imagine that happening. And I question the fit of Paul George with the Sixers because it just feels that, like, timeline-wise, all the issues that the Sixers have had, Paul George is the same freaking thing. Injuries have screwed up their timeline. Big, massive playoff duds have screwed up both their timelines. That's why I was a bit concerned, but Paul George is the biggest name on the market, and there's the hint, the wink, that, I could join there, and then that just suddenly stopped, but I could see it pivoting back and it just being a situation that happens. And again, I could see the Clippers benefiting from this by getting a Buddy Hield, a Kelly Oubre, a Tobias Harris out of this. I don't know how sign and trades work. Sometimes this can work, sometimes it cannot. I don't know. Now, rushing through this. Isaiah Hartenstein. The Knicks, I thought he was going to end up back on the Knicks because he had such a big playoff performance for them. I also do think that they probably are just thinking that they could find someone else to do this, and Andre Drummond comes to mind with that. And good on him for more than likely getting a big payday because, like I said, he had a great playoff performance, and I fully imagine he's able to continuously do that. And I could see him ending up with the Thunder because they have money, because they want to have Chet at the power forward, and they're not having to give up their draft picks that they love to, I'm not going to say hoard, but keep. And if they ever needed to trade them, they could. But I could see Hartenstein ending up with the Thunder. Continuing, talking with the center, Jonas Valanciunas. I suggested the Milwaukee Bucks because he kinda is very Brook Lopez-esque, and I imagine the Bucks are trying to make some type of change and trade, and I could see Brook Lopez fitting well with the Pelicans again, talking about a sign and trade, but I think that Valanciunas also fits with the Bucks. With Valanciunas, I don't really know again. I'm ready for him to move on from I'm ready for the Pelicans to make a dramatic change. If they run the same team back, I am going to be extremely pissed. And this is one of those ways that they could start with this because he's a free agent. He can be willing and ready to move on. Going back to Paul George for a second, because I completely forgot. Because I expected to end the video talk about Paul George, but I already hinted at it several times, so I was like, let's just wrap this up. So, finishing it, finally, Sacramento Kings. They want to get involved in a trade. In my eyes and in my opinion, the Kings need to make defensive adjustments because they have a lot of offense already on their team. And Paul George definitely provides offense, but he also provides a lot of defense as well. Again, I don't know if the Clippers are interested in anything that the Kings would offer. Just want to throw that out there. He also gets to stay in California. I know it's not location-wise the exact same location, but it's definitely still in the state. They're both in California. Tyus Jones. I was personally interested in this because I'm a Grizzlies fan and always like to keep up with the guys that were on the Grizzlies. And it is extremely weird because the Wizards literally were terrible this year. Tyus also got his... Can I fix this light? There we go. It's kind of fixed. He finally got to start as a point guard, and he didn't have a drop-off, but he also, again, went to one of the worst teams in the league, and it sucked. I see him staying with the Wizards and then them trying to move on from him down the line and have him build his value. I knew it started with a V. Up. So I could see him staying with the Wizards. I would hope he moves on. I could see and hope that he moves on to the Heat, and maybe you get the sign and trade and involving Kuzma going to the Heat, and the Heat finally make a big change. But I also think that they are probably all right with Jaime Jaquez being their starting power forward. I personally would like to see him come off the bench. And to be honest, because the Wizards are in rebuild mode because they just traded the best player in Deni Avdija, which very weird trade, but I'm not completely flabbergasted by it, and I was okay with seeing the Blazers adding some forward help to their team. But you could maybe finally move on from Duncan Robinson's contract. I'm trying to think everything to get this to work because I don't know what the hell the Heat have. Duncan Robinson, I know, makes a lot of money. Maybe throw a pick in. Throw in the money to make Tyus get some money out of it. What I was essentially trying to get at is Tyus could be your start point guard, but sometimes people forget that Terry Rozier is on the Heat. I guess mainly because he got traded to the Heat and then got injured right before the playoffs and did not play. But like I said, Tyus could fit on that team like a glove and could come off the bench or even start. So I wouldn't mind seeing him with the Heat. As now we wrap this video up, talk about the last two names. I expected to wrap this video talking about the Clippers free agents, but we already covered Paul George. But getting to the other two, a.k.a. Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I talked about the Pelicans. I'm just going to tell you this now. I don't really know what the hell with James Harden. I think he screwed things up by screwing up the 76ers and wanting out there because I don't know what team. I imagine he stays with the Clippers because he had this big, I'm not going to say fit, but he really wanted to be a damn Clipper, and he is a Clipper now. I just imagine him staying. I was suggesting the Pelicans because I said I want to see them make some type of change, and I think they have several things that could go to the Clippers to make that change. Granted, I don't think it propels either team to a different level. Just throwing a suggestion out there. As we wrap this video up, talk about my favorite player of all time. It's tough times around here, but Russell Westbrook. After the season ended, he said he wants to stay a Clipper. He has the option to stay a Clipper. But do they want him to stay a Clipper? That's something that we'll find out, obviously, in the next couple of days. I have seen, not necessarily a rumor, but an idea thrown around of him going to the Suns, which is slightly more of a chance of happening because they moved on from Frank Vogel, and I know they did not like each other, or they have some tension. And it would very much be him in the same role that he's in now on the Clippers, but for the Suns, it's much more needed because Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are not the playmaker that Russ is. Russ has played with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal like he has with James Harden and Paul George. I wouldn't mind seeing KD and Russ reunite, my childhood, my NBA fandom, all over again. But I just think that the Suns are such a shitty predicament right now that I don't want Russ thrown into that. So that's the only gripe that I have there. So I also think the trade market is a lot more interesting than free agency right now because we're seeing a lot. We just saw somebody get traded for 6 first-round picks. We see a lot of teams going towards the rebuilding direction, a la the Brooklyn Nets, hopefully the Chicago Bulls, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, DeMar, Nikola Vucevic. I'm trying to think of some other. Kyle Kuzma, the Wizards. I forgot to throw them in there. But the Hawks, hopefully as well, but we'll see what happens there. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, if a big trade happens, I'll make a reaction video to it like I did with the Mikal Bridges one. I already gave my thoughts on the Deni Avdija trade. It's not as dramatic of a trade that I need to make a separate video on. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully you enjoy your weekend. I feel a little bit sick right now, so I'm going to go upload this, go lay down, and enjoy myself. Hopefully you do as well. I do thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.